Everyone must deal with it because it is the one thing we never consider. All of us will eventually die, and when it does, it won't be pleasant. Even though it's simpler to see in movies or on television, when it happens to someone we know or someone who is right in front of us, it disturbs us and frightens us. It disturbs us and induces fear and anxiety because it is something we cannot control and cannot be extricated from. The brain is unable to comprehend the finality of death, or the fact that we cease to exist after we pass away. If you want to know some scary and disturbing facts about death, then watch this video till the end. Number 1. Within 3 days of death, the enzymes that once digested your dinner begin to digest you. Large food molecules are broken down into smaller ones by the stomach's enzymes and acids during the digestion process so that the body can absorb them as nutrients. According to some sources, the inner wall cells of your intestines can release up to 2 liters of hydrochloric acid each day. The intestines regularly secrete a thick layer of mucus because the acid is corrosive. These secretions stop when you pass away. Your internal tissues begin to be eaten away by enzymes and acids as the mucus becomes depleted. Number 2. The practice of burying the dead dates as far back as 300,000 years. The practice of burying the dead is thought to have originated as a religious act in the Middle Paleolithic and was part of the doctrine of the Paleolithic religions. However, the earliest discovered evidence of burial dates back up to 100,000 years and was discovered in the School Cave at Kafza, Israel. The skeletal remains were often found to be buried along with other items such as the lower jaw of a wild boar in the arms of the deceased. Number 3. About 100 billion people have died in all of human history. The Population Reference Bureau estimates that over 107 billion people have ever lived on this planet. But as of 2022, there are currently 7.97 billion people in the world, and that number is rising. This implies that there are roughly 15 dead people for every living person. In reality, somewhere between 800 BC and 1 AD, the threshold for the number of dead people to equal the number of living people was crossed. Ironically, the birth rate significantly decreased in the 20th century from 40 births per 1,000 people per year to 23. Despite the fact that the population in the past was lower than it is now. However, the 20th century has seen an unprecedented rise in life expectancy. Number 4. Medical mistakes kill over 250,000 Americans each year. If they were a disease, they would be the 3rd leading cause of death in the US, according to a study by surgeon and professor Martin Macquarie of Johns Hopkins University. Medical errors rank 3rd among the causes of death in the United States. Behind heart disease and cancer, medical errors are thought to be responsible for 98,000 deaths annually, according to the Institute of Medicine of the National Academy of Sciences. According to the Inspector General of the Department of Health and Human Services, 180,000 Medicare patients died in 2010. A NASA toxicologist who lost a son to what he believes to be a medical error in 2013 estimated that between 210,000 and 440,000 people died each year. Number 5. As a person dies, the sense of hearing is the last to go. As a person is dying, a number of things take place. Changes in breathing patterns, hallucinations, agitation, and appetite loss are all possible. As the blood flows away from the extremities, there will be changes in skin tone and temperature, bowel and bladder function, and muscle relaxation. According to Dr. Catherine Clark, a staff specialist in palliative care at Royal Prince Alfred Hospital in Sydney, among all the things that stop working, hearing is the last sense to depart in a dying person. She claims that the ECGs of various people's brains at the time of death showed this. Number 6. Mount Everest has about 200 dead bodies on it, which are now landmarks on the way to the top. The climb of Mount Everest is extremely risky. The dangers can occasionally extend beyond the cold and low oxygen levels. Avalanches are just one example of a natural disaster. As many as 200 climbers' dead bodies left behind on the route to the summit of Mount Everest can be found here. The climbers typically have to sign a body disposal form before they leave, indicating whether they want to try to get their body home. bring their body to Kathmandu for cremation, or leave it on the mountain in the event of death. Alan Arnett, a mountaineer who has successfully ascended Mount Everest, claims that all of the alternatives to simply leaving the body there are very expensive and could cost as much as $30,000. As a result, most of the bodies are simply left there. Number 7. Before a person dies from hypothermia, they experience a burst of extreme heat that causes them to undress. This is known as paradoxical undressing. There are two possibilities for the paradoxical undressing. One effect of the cold is that the hypothalamus, which helps regulate the body's temperature, begins to malfunction. The second explanation is that the muscles that contract the peripheral blood vessels become exhausted and relax, resulting in a sudden rush of blood to the extremities, which causes the person to feel extremely hot. It is estimated that paradoxical undressing accounts for 25 to 50% of hypothermia deaths. The victims become disoriented and confused as a result of the cold, and in this state, they end up removing their clothes when they feel they are becoming overheated. This puts them at risk of further heat loss and death if help does not arrive. Number 8. Crucifixion as part of the legal death penalty is still practiced in Sudan and Saudi Arabia. Sudan's penal code stipulates that execution must be followed by crucifixion in accordance with the government's interpretation of Sharia law. In Saudi Arabia, during the 2000s, a number of people were crucified to death, though some of them were first beheaded. During the Arab Spring in 2012, 17-year-old Ali Mohammed Bakir al-Namir was detained. In May 2014, he was given the punishment of being publicly beheaded and crucified. Crucifixion is still a possible form of punishment in Iran. For 3 days, the prisoner would be hung from a structure shaped like a cross with his or her back to Mecca. If the prisoner is still alive after that, he or she may live. And finally, at number 9, drowning in salt water is different from drowning in fresh water. It takes longer, and salt water draws the blood plasma out of the bloodstream into the lungs. In other words, you drown in your own body fluids. Water does a lot more to our bodies than just filling our lungs with water, which makes it impossible to breathe while drowning. Since fresh water has a lower osmotic pressure than our normal body fluids, it is hypotonic and causes the blood cells' membranes to take up water. The plasma and electrolytes are diluted by the rise in liquid levels, which causes the blood cells to swell and burst. Contrarily, salt water has a higher osmotic pressure than body fluids because it is hypertonic. The plasma in your blood vessels is sucked out through the cell walls instead, causing the air sacs in your lungs to fill with fluids, making it impossible to perform gas exchange. You drown in your own fluids. So that's the end of the video. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and press the notification bell so you never miss out on our next videos. Until the next video, take care.